Friends, if you want to watch super hit movie Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in English, then you must like this video. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe West Films to our channel, friends. In today's video, the movie we're going to talk about is called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it, all the interesting facts about this movie in today's video. I'm going to tell you. I'm also going to give you all the information on which OTT platform or on which satellite channel you will get to watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production, filming, post-production, budget, box office collection of this film. We will also talk about the story of this film, and I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film storyline, star cast actors' performance in the film, and which character has played which role. That's why I request you friends to watch this video till the ends. Let's start the video. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is a 2001 fantasy film directed by Chris Columbus and produced by David Heyman from a screenplay by Steve Kloves. It is based on the 1997 novel Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by British author J.K. Rowling. It is the first installment in the Harry Potter film series. The film stars Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter, with Rupert Grint in his film debut as Ron Weasley, and Emma Watson in her film debut as Hermione Granger. Its story follows Harry's first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry as he discovers that he is a famous wizard and begins his formal wizarding education. Warner Bros. Pictures bought the film rights to the book in 1999 for a reported $1 million, $1.65 million. Production began in the United Kingdom in 2000, with Columbus being chosen to helm the film from a short list of directors that included Steven Spielberg and Rob Reiner. Rowling insisted that the entire cast be British and Irish, with the three leads chosen in August 2000 following open casting calls. Filming took place at Leavesden Film Studios and historic buildings around the United Kingdom from September 2000 to March 2001. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was released to cinemas in the United Kingdom and Ireland on the 10th and 11th of November 2001 for 2 days of previews. The film opened on the 16th of November in the United States, Canada, and Taiwan, as well as officially in the United Kingdom and Ireland. It became a critical and commercial success, grossing $974 million at the worldwide box office during its initial run, and over $1 billion with subsequent re-releases against a $125 million budget. It became the highest-grossing film of 2001 and the second highest-grossing film at the time. The film was nominated for many awards, including Academy Awards for Best Original Score, Best Art Direction, and Best Costume Design. It was followed by 7 sequels, beginning with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets in 2002, and ending with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 in 2011. Plot: orphaned as a baby, Harry Potter is put in the care of his only living relatives, the Dursley family, by Professors Albus Dumbledore, Minerva McGonagall, and gamekeeper Rubeus Hagrid from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. As Harry grows up, the Dursleys keep him unaware of magic and tell him his parents died in a car crash. Ahead of his 11th birthday, letters addressed to Harry and delivered by owls keep arriving at the Dursley home, which they intercept until Hagrid is sent to confirm to Harry that he is a wizard and has been accepted to study magic at Hogwarts. Hagrid brings Harry to purchase school supplies at Diagon Alley, where Harry learns he is celebrated for surviving the dark wizard Lord Voldemort, who murdered his parents but was unable to kill Harry, leaving him with only a scar while Voldemort was defeated. Harry then journeys aboard the Hogwarts Express, where he befriends Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, while later rivaling Draco Malfoy. Arriving at Hogwarts, the first-year students are sorted into 4 houses. Harry, Ron, and Hermione join Gryffindor, while Malfoy goes to Slytherin, known for producing dark wizards. Harry begins learning about magic and exploring Hogwarts, where he, Ron, and Hermione wander onto a forbidden corridor on the 3rd floor, guarded by a giant 3-headed dog named Fluffy, leading them to question what it could be protecting. After Ron insults Hermione's studious ways, she becomes upset and retreats to the girls' toilets. At the same time, Professor Quirrell announces a mountain troll is loose in the school. Harry and Ron go to warn Hermione and, finding her cornered by the troll, rescue her. Hermione subsequently saves Harry and Ron from punishment by telling McGonagall she went looking for the troll. During his first flying lesson, Harry retrieves fellow student Neville Longbottom's Remembrall from Malfoy. Displaying such impressive flying skills, McGonagall makes him Seeker for the Gryffindor Quidditch team. During his first match, Ron and Hermione believe they see Potions Professor Severus Snape jinxing Harry's broomstick and act to prevent him harming Harry. Harry tells Hagrid of his suspicions that Snape is trying to get into the Forbidden Corridor, which Hagrid dismisses while unintentionally revealing that Fluffy is guarding something known only to Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel. Harry and Ron spend Christmas together at Hogwarts, where Harry receives the Cloak of Invisibility and discovers the Mirror of Erised, which shows one's deepest desire. When Hermione returns, she informs the boys that Nicholas Flamel created the Philosopher's Stone, which can grant users immortality, and deduces is what's being kept on the third floor. Harry subsequently encounters a hooded creature feeding on unicorns in the forest surrounding the school, which a centaur called Firenze informs him was Voldemort, who is seeking immortality. Suspecting that Snape will make a move to retrieve the stone for Voldemort, the trio decide to head him off. After getting past Fluffy, they then face challenges involving a devil's snare plant, flying keys, and an enchanted chessboard, which leaves Ron incapacitated. Hermione tends to him, leaving Harry alone to confront their suspect, which turns out to be Quirrell, who in fact has been the one trying to find the stone all year, while Snape has been preventing him and protecting Harry. Looking into the Mirror of Erised once again, Harry comes into possession of the stone. Quirrell reveals Voldemort's weakened form on the back of his head, and he attempts to have Harry hand it over. When Harry refuses, Voldemort orders Quirrell to kill him, but Harry's touch incinerates Quirrell, while Voldemort's spirit escapes. Harry wakes up in hospital, where Dumbledore tells him the stone has been destroyed, and that Harry was able to defeat both Voldemort and Quirrell, as his mother's sacrifice has left him protected from harmful magic. As the school year ends, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville earn house points, enabling Gryffindor to win the House Cup despite Slytherin's early lead. As summer nears, Harry is happy to have found a real home at Hogwarts. Cast Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter. An 11-year-old orphan living with his unwelcoming aunt, uncle, and cousin, who learns of his own fame as a wizard known to have survived his parents' murder at the hands of the dark wizard Lord Voldemort as an infant when he is accepted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Columbus had wanted Radcliffe for the role since he saw him in the BBC's production of David Copperfield before the open casting sessions had taken place, but had been told by casting director Susan Figgis that Radcliffe's protective parents would not allow their son to take part in fear of him not going to have a normal childhood. Columbus explained that his persistence in giving Radcliffe the role was responsible for Figgis's resignation. Radcliffe was asked to audition in 2000 when Heyman and Kloves met him and his parents at a production of Stones in His Pockets in London. Heyman and Columbus successfully managed to convince Radcliffe's parents that their son would be protected from media intrusion. They agreed to let him play Harry. Rowling approved of Radcliffe's casting, stating that, having seen his screen test, I don't think Chris Columbus could have found a better Harry. Radcliffe was reportedly paid £1 million for the film, although he felt the fee was not that important to him. The Saunders triplets appear as Harry as a baby. Rupert Grint as Ron Weasley, Harry's best friend at Hogwarts and a younger member of the Weasley wizarding family. A fan of the series, Grint decided he would be perfect for the part because he has ginger hair. Having seen a Newsround report about the open casting, he sent in a video of himself rapping about how he wished to receive the part. His attempt was successful as the casting team asked for a meeting with him. Emma Watson as Hermione Granger, Harry's other best friend and the trio's brains. Watson's Oxford theater teacher passed her name on to the casting agents, and she had to do over 5 interviews before she got the part. Watson took her audition seriously, but never really thought she had any chance of getting the role. The producers were impressed by Watson's self-confidence, and she outperformed the thousands of other girls who had applied. John Cleese as nearly headless Nick, the ghost of Gryffindor House. Robbie Coltrane as Rubus Hagrid, a half-giant and Hogwarts gamekeeper. Coltrane was one of the 2 actors Rowling wanted most, along with Smith as McGonagall. Coltrane, who was already a fan of the books, prepared for the role by discussing Hagrid's past and future with Rowling. Warwick Davis as Phileas Flitwick, the charms master and head of Ravenclaw House. Davis also plays 2 other roles in the film, the Goblin Head Teller at Gringotts, and dubs the voice of Griffook, who is embodied by Vern Troyer. Richard Griffiths as Vernon Dursley, Harry's Muggle uncle. Richard Harris as Albus Dumbledore, Hogwarts headmaster, and one of the most famous and powerful wizards of all time. Harris initially rejected the role, only to reverse his decision after his granddaughter stated she would never speak to him again if he did not take it. Ian Hart as Quirinus Quirrell, the stuttering defense against the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts. Hart also voiced Lord Voldemort, while Richard Bremer provided his physical appearance and portrayed him as a hooded figure during a flashback. John Hurt as Mr. Ollivander, a highly regarded wand maker and the owner of Ollivanders. Alan Rickman as Severus Snape, the potions master and head of Slytherin House. Fiona Shaw as Petunia Dursley, Harry's Muggle aunt. Maggie Smith as Minerva McGonagall, the deputy headmistress, head of Gryffindor and transfiguration teacher at Hogwarts. Smith was one of the 2 actors Rowling wanted most, along with Coltrane as Hagrid. Julie Walters as Molly Weasley, Ron's mother. She shows Harry how to get to Platform 9. Additionally, Zoe Wanamaker appears as Madam Hooch, Hogwarts flying instructor and Quidditch referee. Tom Felton portrays Draco Malfoy, a student in Slytherin and Harry's rival. Harry Melling plays Dudley Dursley, Harry's Muggle cousin, and David Bradley appears as Argus Filch, Hogwarts caretaker Matthew Lewis. Devon Murray and Alfred Enoch portray Neville Longbottom, Seamus Finnegan, and Dean Thomas, respectively, 3 first-year students in Gryffindor. James and Oliver Phelps play twins Fred and George Weasley, Ron's brothers, while Chris Rankin appears as his other brother Percy, a Gryffindor prefect, and Bonnie Wright appears as Ron's sister Ginny. Sean Biggerstaff portrays Oliver Wood, the keeper of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Jamie Waylett and Joshua Herdman play Crabbe and Goyle, Malfoy's minions, and Leslie Phillips voices the Sorting Hat, 37. Derek Deadman plays Tom, innkeeper of the Leaky Cauldron, and Elizabeth Spriggs appears as the Fat Lady, a painting at Hogwarts. Jean Southern plays Dimpled Woman on Train. Production. Development. In 1997, producer David Heyman searched for a children's book that could be adapted into a well-received film. He had planned to produce Diana Wynne Jones' novel The Ogre Downstairs, but his plans fell through. His staff at Heyday Films then suggested Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which his assistant believed was a cool idea. Heyman pitched the idea to Warner Bros., and in 1999, Rowling sold the company the rights to the first 4 Harry Potter books for a reported £1 million. A demand Rowling made was for Heyman to keep the cast strictly British and Irish. The latter's case has Richard Harris as Albus Dumbledore and Fiona Shaw as Petunia Dursley, and not to cast foreign actors unless absolutely necessary, like casting of French and Eastern European actors in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, 2005, where characters from the book are specified as such. Rowling was hesitant to sell the rights because she didn't want to give them control over the rest of the story by selling the rights to the characters, which would have enabled Warner Bros. To make non-author written sequels. Although Steven Spielberg initially negotiated to direct the film, he declined the offer. Spielberg reportedly wanted the adaptation to be an animated film, with American actor Haley Joel Osment to provide Harry Potter's voice, or a film that incorporated elements from subsequent books as well. Spielberg contended that, in his opinion, it was like shooting ducks in a barrel. It's just a slam dunk. It's just like withdrawing $1 billion and putting it into your personal bank accounts. There's no challenge. Rowling maintains that she had no role in choosing directors for the films and that anyone who thinks I could or would have vetoed sick him Spielberg needs their quick quotes quill serviced. Heyman recalled that Spielberg decided to direct AI, Artificial Intelligence 2001, instead. In a 2023 interview, Spielberg stated that he turned down the project so he could spend time with his family. After Spielberg left, talks began with other directors, including Chris Columbus, Terry Gilliam, Jonathan Demme, Mike Newell, who would later direct the fourth film, Alan Parker, Wolfgang Peterson, Rob Reiner, Ivan Reitman, Tim Robbins, Brad Silberling, M. Night Shyamalan, David Fincher, and Peter Weir. Shyamalan declined as he already working on Signs 2002. Peterson and Reiner both pulled out of the running in March 2000, and the choice was narrowed down to Silberling, Columbus, Parker, and Gilliam. Rowling's first choice director was Gilliam, but Warner Bros. Chose Columbus, citing his work on other family films such as Home Alone, 1990, and Mrs. Doubtfire, 1993, as influences for their decision. Columbus had become a fan of the book series after his daughter persuaded him to read the first 3 books, leading him to call his agent to arrange a meeting at Warner Bros. To direct the film. When his agent told him that at least 25 other directors were eager to helm the project, Columbus requested his agent to secure his meeting to be the last one so he could give a lasting impression and be the studio's freshest person in their memory. During 2 weeks of waiting, Columbus wrote a 130-page director's version of the screenplay to explain his vision for the film's tone. The day of his meeting with Warner Bros. Executives, including Alan F. Horn, Columbus delivered an impassioned 45-minute talk and showed them his annotated script. Weeks later, the studio notified Columbus that he had got the job and sent him to Scotland to meet with Rowling and Heyman. Columbus pitched his vision of the film for 2 hours, stating that he wanted the Muggle scenes to be bleak and dreary, but those set in the wizarding world to be steeped in color, mood, and detail. He took inspiration from David Lean's adaptations of Great Expectations, 1946, and Oliver Twist, 1948, wishing to use that sort of darkness, that sort of edge, that quality to the cinematography, while being further inspired by the color designs from Oliver, 1968, and The Godfather, 1972. Steve Kloves was selected to write the screenplay. He described adapting the book as tough, as it did not lend itself to adaptation as well as the next 2 books. Kloves often received synopses of books proposed as film adaptations from Warner Bros., which he almost never read. But Harry Potter jumped out at him. He went out and bought the book and became an instant fan of the series. When speaking to Warner Bros., he stated that the film had to be British and had to be true to the characters. Kloves was nervous when he first met Rowling, as he did not want her to think he was going to destroy her baby. Rowling admitted that she was really ready to hate this Steve Kloves, but recalled her initial meeting with him. The first time I met him, he said to me, "You know who my favorite character is?" And I thought, "You're going to say Ron. I know you're going to say Ron," but he said Hermione, and I just kind of melted. Rowling received a large amount of creative control, an arrangement that Columbus did not mind. Warner Bros. Had initially planned to release the film over 4th of July 2001 weekend, making for such a short production window that several proposed directors pulled themselves out of the running. Due to time constraints, the date was put back to 16th of November 2001. Casting. Rowling insisted that the cast be kept British. Susie Figgis was appointed as casting director, working with both Columbus and Rowling in auditioning the lead roles of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Open casting calls were held for the main 3 roles, with only British children being considered. The principal auditions took place in 3 parts, with those auditioning having to read a page from the novel, then to improvise a scene of the students' arrival at Hogwarts, and finally to read several pages from the script in front of Columbus. Scenes from Columbus's script for Young Sherlock Holmes 1985 were also used in auditions. On the 11th of July 2000, Figgis left the production, complaining that Columbus did not consider any of the thousands of children they had auditioned worthy. She ended up quitting over disagreements with Columbus over who should play the titular character, as Columbus wanted to cast Americans for Harry and the other roles, with rumors that Columbus was thinking on casting Joel Osment or Jake Lloyd from Star Wars Episode I: The Phantom Menace, 1999, to play Harry. By August 2000, Alan Rickman and Richard Harris were in final talks to play Severus Snape and Albus Dumbledore respectively, and were confirmed later that month. Tim Roth was the original choice for Snape, but he turned it down for Planet of the Apes 2001. Sean Connery and Christopher Lee were offered the role of Dumbledore, but both declined. Lee turned it down for The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, 2001. Patrick McGoohan was also offered the role, which he declined, citing health reasons. On the 14th of August 2000, Rowling's favorites Maggie Smith and Robbie Coltrane were cast as Minerva McGonagall and Rubeus Hagrid. According to Figgis, Robin Williams was interested in playing the role of Hagrid, but was turned down for the role because of the strictly British and Irish actors-only rule, which Columbus was determined to maintain. On the 21st of August 2000, Daniel Radcliffe and newcomers Rupert Grint and Emma Watson were selected to play Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger, respectively. According to Columbus, Harry was the hardest role to cast. Hundreds of young stars auditioned for Harry, including Liam Aiken, Jamie Campbell Bow, who was later cast as a young Gellert Grindelwald in the 7th film, Tom Felton, who also auditioned for Ron and was later cast as Draco Malfoy, Nicholas Hoult, William Moseley, and Jack Whitehall. Aiken was reported as being a frontrunner for the role, having worked with Columbus on the film Stepmom, 1998. However, Rowling was firm on her British actors-only rule, and even called Columbus to confirm that Aiken would not be cast. Gabriel Thompson was also initially reported as having been given the role, though this would be proven untrue upon the casting of Radcliffe. Hattie Jones, who starred in the title role in Madeline 1998, was considered for the role of Hermione Granger and had auditioned alongside Watson. She was later deemed outgrown. Katie B. also auditioned for Hermione, with Thomas Brodie Sangster auditioning for the role of Ron. In November 2000, Julie Walters and John Cleese joined the cast as Molly Weasley and Nearly Headless Nick, respectively. Rosie O'Donnell met with Columbus to express her interest in playing the role of Molly, but was, like Williams and Aiken, turned away over the British actors-only rule. David Thewlis auditioned for Quirinus Quirrell. He would later be cast as Remus Lupin in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, 2004. Rowling herself was considered for Lily Evans, Harry's mother, but she turned down the role, so Geraldine Somerville was cast. Filming 2 British film industry officials requested that the film be shot in the United Kingdom, offering their assistance in securing filming locations, the use of Leavesden Film Studios, as well as changing the UK's child labour laws, adding a small number of working hours per week and making the timing of on-set classes more flexible. Warner Bros. Accepted their proposal. Principal photography began on the 29th of September 2000 at Leavesden Film Studios. Filming at the North Yorkshire's Goathland Railway Station took place on the 2nd of October 2000. Canterbury Cathedral and Scotland's Inverleith Castle were both touted as possible locations for Hogwarts. Canterbury rejected Warner Bros. Proposal due to concerns about the film's pagan theme. Alnwick Castle and Gloucester Cathedral were eventually selected as the principal locations for Hogwarts 6, with some scenes also being filmed at Harrow School. Other Hogwarts scenes were filmed in Durham Cathedral over a 2-week period. These included shots of the corridors and some classroom scenes. Oxford University's Divinity School served as the Hogwarts Hospital Wing, and Duke Humphrey's Library, part of the Bodleian, was used as the Hogwarts Library. Filming for Privet Drive took place on Picket Post Close in Bracknell, Berkshire. Filming in the street took 2 days instead of the planned single day, so payments to the street's residents were correspondingly increased. For all the subsequent film scenes set in Privet Drive, filming took place on a constructed set in Leavesden Film Studios, which proved to be cheaper than filming on location. London's Australia House was selected as the location for Gringotts Wizarding Bank, while Christ Church, Oxford, was the location for the Hogwarts Trophy Room. London Zoo's Reptile House was used as the location for the scene in which Harry accidentally sets a snake on Dudley, with King's Cross Station also being used as the book specifies. Filming concluded on the 23rd of March 2001, with final work being done in July 2001. Because the American title was different, all scenes that mentioned the Philosopher's Stone by name had to be shot twice, once with the actors saying philosophers and once with sorcerers. The children filmed for 4 hours and then did 3 hours of schoolwork. They developed a liking for fake facial injuries from the makeup staff. Radcliffe was initially meant to wear green contact lenses, as his eyes are blue, and not green like Harry's, but the lenses gave Radcliffe extreme irritation. Upon consultation with Rowling, it was agreed that Harry could have blue eyes. Radcliffe said that the first time he put on the glasses, it set off his allergies. Columbus said the film had a lot of cuts and was filmed with multiple cameras because he had trouble getting the young cast to stop smiling into the camera. The steam engine used in the film as the Hogwarts Express was GWR 4900 Class 5E972 Olton Hall, but it was originally not the first locomotive to be selected as the Hogwarts Express. To promote the books, the Southern Railway locomotive 34Hodo27 Taw Valley was repainted and renamed temporarily, but was rejected by director Chris Columbus as looking too modern for the film. Design and special effects. Judianna Makovsky served as the costume designer. She redesigned the Quidditch robes, having initially planned to use those shown on the cover of the American book, but deemed them a mess. Instead, she dressed the Quidditch players in preppy sweaters, 19th century fencing breeches, and arm guards. Production designer Stuart Craig built the sets at Leavesden Studios, including Hogwarts Great Hall, basing it on many English cathedrals. Although originally asked to use an existing old street to film the Diagon Alley scenes, Craig decided to build his own set, comprising Tudor, Georgian, and Queen Anne architecture. Columbus originally planned to use both animatronics and CGI animation to create the magical creatures, including Fluffy. Nick Dudman, who worked on Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace, was given the task of creating the needed prosthetics, with Jim Henson's Creature Shop providing creature effects. John Coppinger stated that the magical creatures that needed to be created had to be designed multiple times. The film features nearly 600 special effects shots, involving numerous companies. Industrial Light and Magic created Lord Voldemort's face on the back of Quirrell, Rhythm and Hues animated Norbert, Hagrid's baby dragon, and Sony Pictures Imageworks produced the Quidditch scenes. Music. Main article, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. James Horner was initially sought to compose the score, but declined the opportunity. Having previously collaborated with Columbus on the Home Alone films and Stepmom, John Williams was selected to compose the score in August 2000. Williams composed the score at his homes in Los Angeles and Tanglewood before recording it in London in September 2001. One of the main themes is entitled Hedwig's Theme. Williams retained it for his finished score as everyone seemed to like it, and it became a recurring theme throughout the series. Differences from the book. Columbus repeatedly checked with Rowling to make sure he was getting minor details correct. Kloves described the film as being really faithful to the book. He added dialogue of which Rowling approved. One of the lines originally included had to be removed after Rowling told him that it would directly contradict an event in the then unreleased fifth Harry Potter novel, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Several minor characters were removed from the film version, most prominently Peeves the Poltergeist. Rick Mayall was cast, but his scenes were cut and never released. The book's first chapter, told from the viewpoint of Vernon and Petunia Dursley, is absent from the film. Harry and Draco's first encounter in Madame Malkin's robe shop and the midnight duel are not in the film. In the film, the responsibility of taking Norbert away is given to Dumbledore, while in the book, Harry and Hermione have to bring him by hand to Charlie Weasley's friends. This necessitated a change in the detention plotline. In the book, Filch catches Harry and Hermione leaving the astronomy tower and puts them in detention with Neville and Malfoy, while in the film, all three protagonists receive detention after Malfoy finds them in Hagrid's hut after hours. According to Kloves, this was the one part of the book that Rowling felt easily could be changed. The Quidditch pitch is altered from a traditional stadium to an open field circled by spectator towers. The book's timeline is not enforced in the film. In the book, Harry's 11th birthday is in 1991. On the film set for 4 Privet Drive, Dudley's certificates from primary school bear the year 2001. Distribution. Marketing. The first teaser poster of the film was released on the 1st of December 2000. The first teaser trailer was released via satellite on the 2nd of March 2001 and debuted in cinemas with the release of See Spot Run. A video game based on the film was released on the 15th of November 2001 by Electronic Arts for several consoles. A port for the game, for the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox was released in 2003. Mattel won the rights to produce toys based on the film to be sold exclusively through Warner Bros. Stores. Hasbro also produced products, including confectionery products based on those from the series. Warner Bros. Signed a deal worth $150 million with Coca-Cola to promote the film, although some pegged the deal at $40 million to $50 million worldwide for the movie. Lego produced a series of sets based on buildings and scenes from the film, as well as a Lego Creator video game. Theatrical release. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone had its world premiere at the Odeon Leicester Square in London on the 4th of November 2001, with the cinema arranged to resemble Hogwarts School. The film had previews in the United Kingdom on the 1,137 screens at 491 theaters on the 10th and the 11th of November 2001. It officially opened on the 16th of November 2001 on 1,168 screens at 507 theaters in the United Kingdom and Ireland, in 3,672 theaters in the United States and Canada. It was the widest release at the time in the United Kingdom and the United States. Home media. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was first released on VHS and DVD on the 11th of May 2002 in the United Kingdom and 28th of May 2002 in the United States. Between May and June 2002, the film sold 10 million copies, almost 60% of which were DVD sales. It would go on to make $19 million in rentals, surpassing The Fast and the Furious for having the largest DVD rentals. This record was surpassed by The Bourne Identity in January 2003. In December 2009, a 4-disc Ultimate Edition was released, with 7 minutes of deleted scenes added back in, the feature-length special Creating the World of Harry Potter Part 1, The Magic Begins, and a 48-page hardcover booklet. The extended version has a running time of about 159 minutes, which had previously been shown during certain television airings. The film was re-released on DVD as part of the 8-disc Harry Potter, the complete 8-film collection in November 2011, and on Blu-ray as part of the 31-disc Hogwarts collection in April 2014. It was released on UHD Blu-ray as part of the 16-disc Harry Potter 8-film collection in November 2017. Reception. Box office. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone grossed a record single-day gross of £3.6 million during the first day of previews, beating Toy Story 2's record. It grossed a record £3.1 million for a Sunday, bringing its total to $6.7 million from the previews. It broke the record for the highest opening weekend ever, both including and excluding previews, making £16.3 million with and £9.6 million without previews, $13.8 million, setting a further record single-day gross on the Saturday with £3.99 million. It set another Sunday record with a gross of £3.6 million. It had a record second weekend of £8.4 million. It remained at number one in the UK for 5 weeks. The film went on to make £66.1 million in the UK alone, making it the country's second highest grossing film of all time, after Titanic, until it was surpassed by Mamma Mia. In the United States and Canada, it made $32.3 million on its opening day, breaking the single-day record previously held by Star Wars Episode I: The Phantom Menace, 1999. On the second day of release, the film's gross increased to $33.5 million, breaking the record for biggest single day again. It made $90.3 million during its first weekend, breaking the record for highest opening weekend of all time that was previously held by The Lost World: Jurassic Park, 1997. It held the record until the following May when Spider-Man 2002 made $114.8 million in its opening weekend, 148. Plus, the film broke Batman Forever's record for having the largest opening weekend for a Warner Bros. Film. It would hold this record for 2 years until it was surpassed by The Matrix Reloaded, 2003. Additionally, it shattered other opening records, surpassing Monsters, Inc. for having the biggest November opening weekend, Planet of the Apes for having the largest non-holiday opening weekend, the highest Friday gross, and the biggest opening weekend of the year. The Mummy Returns for scoring the highest Saturday gross, Home Alone 2: Lost in New York, 1992, for having the highest opening weekend for a Chris Columbus film, and Mission Impossible 2, 2000. For having the largest number of screenings, playing at 3,672 theaters. In just 5 days, it became the fastest film to approach the $100 million mark. The film grossed $2.3 million in its first 2 days in Taiwan, giving it a worldwide opening weekend total of $107 million. The film held on to the number one spot at the U.S. box office for 3 consecutive weekends before getting overtaken by Ocean's 11. The film also had the highest grossing 5-day, Wednesday-Sunday, Thanksgiving weekend record of $82.4 million, holding the title for 12 years until both The Hunger Games, Catching Fire 2013 and Frozen 2013 surpassed it with $110.1 million and $94 million respectively. By Christmas, it went on to become the highest grossing film of the year, dethroning Shrek. Similar results were achieved across the world. A week after opening in the United States, the film added 15 additional markets and set an opening week record in Germany, grossing $18.7 million. It also set opening records in Austria, Brazil, Denmark, Finland, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and German-speaking Switzerland. In the following weekend, after expanding to 31 countries, the film set a record overseas weekend gross of $60.9 million, including record openings in Australia, Greece, Israel, Japan, $12.5 million, New Zealand, and Spain. It set another overseas weekend record with $62.3 million from 37 countries the following weekend, including record openings in France, Italy, and French-speaking Switzerland. The international opening weekend record would be held until it was given to Star Wars Episode II: Attack of the Clones, 2002, a year later. During its theatrical run, the film earned $974 million at the worldwide box office, $317 million of that in the U.S. and $657 million elsewhere, which made it the second highest grossing film in history at the time, as well as the year's highest grossing film. In addition, it surpassed Twister, 1996, to become the highest-grossing Warner Bros. Film of all time. It is the second highest-grossing Harry Potter film after Deathly Hallows. Part 2 Box Office Mojo estimates that the film sold over 55.9 million tickets in the US and Canada. In August 2020, The Philosopher's Stone was re-released in several countries, including a 4K 3D restoration in China, where it earned $26.4 million for a global $1.26 billion, making it the second film in the series to surpass the billion-dollar mark after Deathly Hallows Part 2. Critical response. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 80% based on 202 reviews, with an average rating of 7.110. The site's critical consensus reads, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone adapts its source material faithfully while condensing the novel's overstuffed narrative into an involving and often downright exciting big-screen magical caper. On Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 65 out of 100, based on 36 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews, 168. Audiences surveyed by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale. Roger Ebert called Philosopher's Stone a classic, giving the film 4 out of 4 stars, and particularly praising the Quidditch scene's visual effects, 70. Praise was echoed by both the Telegraph and Empire reviewers, with Alan Morrison of the latter naming it the film's standout sequence. Brian Linder of IGN also gave the film a positive review, but concluded that it isn't perfect, but for me, it's a nice supplement to a book series that I love. Although criticizing the final half hour, Gene Offmuth of Palo Alto Online stated that the film would enchant even the most cynical of moviegoers. USA Today reviewer Claudia Puig gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, especially praising the set design and Robbie Coltrane's portrayal of Hagrid, but criticized John Williams' music, stating the overly insistent score lacks subtlety and bludgeons us with crescendos, and concluded that, ultimately, many of the book's readers may wish for a more magical incarnation. The sets, design, cinematography, effects, and principal cast were all given praise from Kirk Honeycutt of The Hollywood Reporter, although he deemed John Williams' score a great, clanging, banging music box that simply will not shut up. Todd McCarthy of Variety compared the film positively with Gone with the Wind and put, "The script is faithful, the actors are just right, the sets, costumes, makeup, and effects match, and sometimes exceed anything one could imagine." Jonathan Foreman of the New York Post recalled that the film was remarkably faithful to its literary counterpart, as well as a consistently entertaining if overlong adaptation. Richard Corliss of Time magazine considered the film a by-the-numbers adaptation, criticizing the pace and the charisma-free lead actors. CNN's Paul Tatara found that Columbus and Kloves are so careful to avoid offending anyone by excising a passage from the book, the so-called narrative is more like a jamboree inside Rowling's head. Ed Gonzalez of Slant magazine wished that the film had been directed by Tim Burton, finding the cinematography bland and muggy, and the majority of the film a solidly dull celebration of dribbling goo. Elvis Mitchell of the New York Times was highly negative about the film, saying, "The film is like a theme park that's a few years past its prime. The rides clatter and groan with metal fatigue every time they take a curve." He also said it suffered from a lack of imagination and wooden characters, adding, "The Sorting Hat has more personality than anything else in the movie." Accolades. Philosopher's Stone received 3 Academy Award nominations: Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, and Best Original Score for John Williams. The film was also nominated for 7 BAFTA Awards: Best British Film, Best Supporting Actor for Robbie Coltrane, Best Costume Design, Best Production Design, Best Makeup and Hair, Best Sound, and Best Visual Effects. It won a Saturn Award for Best Costume and was nominated for 8 more awards, won other awards from the Casting Society of America and the Costume Designers Guild. It was nominated for the AFI Film Award for its special effects and the Art Directors Guild Award for its production design. It received the Broadcast Film Critics Award for Best Family Film and was nominated for Best Child Performance for Daniel Radcliffe and Best Composer. In 2005, the American Film Institute nominated the film for AFI's 100 Years of Film Scores. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is a red-blooded adventure movie, dripping with atmosphere, filled with the gruesome and the sublime, and surprisingly faithful to the novel. A lot of things could have gone wrong, and none of them have. Chris Columbus's movie is an enchanting classic that does full justice to a story that was a daunting challenge. The novel by J.K. Rowling was muscular and vivid, and the danger was that the movie would make things too cute and cuddly. It doesn't. Like an Indiana Jones for younger viewers, it tells a rip-roaring tale of supernatural adventure, where colorful and eccentric characters alternate with scary stuff like a 3-headed dog, a pit of tendrils known as the Devil's Snare, and a 2-faced immortal who drinks unicorn blood. Scary, yes, but not too scary. Just scary enough. 3 high-spirited, clear-eyed kids populate the center of the movie. Daniel Radcliffe plays Harry Potter, he with the round glasses, and like all of the young characters, he looks much as I imagined him, but a little older. He once played David Copperfield on the BBC, and whether Harry will be the hero of his own life in this story is much in doubt at the beginning. Deposited as a foundling on a suburban doorstep, Harry is raised by his aunt and uncle as a poor relation, then summoned by a blizzard of letters to become a student at Hogwarts School, an Oxbridge for magicians. Our first glimpse of Hogwarts sets the tone for the movie's special effects. Although computers can make anything look realistic, too much realism would be the wrong choice for Harry Potter, which is a story in which everything, including the sets and locations, should look a little made up. The school, rising on ominous Gothic battlements from a moonlit lake, looks about as real as Xanadu in Citizen Kane, and its corridors, cellars, and Great Hall, although in some cases making use of real buildings, continue the feeling of an atmospheric book illustration. At Hogwarts, Harry makes 2 friends and an enemy. The friends are Hermione Granger, Emma Watson, whose merry face and tangled curls give Harry nudges in the direction of lightening up a little, and Ron Weasley, Rupert Grint, all pluck, luck, and untamed talents. The enemy is Draco Malfoy, Tom Felton, who will do anything and plenty besides to be sure his house places first at the end of the year. The story you either already know or do not want to know. What is good to know is that the adult cast, a who's who of British actors, play their roles more or less as if they believe them. There's a broad style of British acting, developed in Christmas pantomimes, which would have been fatal to this material. These actors know that, and dial down to just this side of too much. Watch Alan Rickman drawing out his words until they seem ready to snap, yet somehow staying in character. Maggie Smith, still in the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, is Professor Minerva McGonagall, who assigns newcomers like Harry to one of the school's 4 houses. Richard Harris is Headmaster Dumbledore, his beard so long that in an Edward Lear poem, birds would nest in it. Robbie Coltrane is the gamekeeper Hagrid, who has a record of misbehavior and a way of saying very important things and then not believing that he said them. Computers are used exuberantly to create a plausible look in the gravity-defying action scenes. Readers of the book will wonder how the movie visualizes the crucial game of Quidditch. The game, like so much else in the movie, is more or less as I visualized it, and I was reminded of Stephen King's theory that writers practice a form of telepathy, placing ideas and images in the heads of their readers. The reason some movies don't look like their books may be that some producers don't read them. If Quidditch is a virtuoso sequence, there are other set pieces of almost equal wizardry. A chess game with life-size deadly pieces, a room filled with flying keys, the pit of tendrils already mentioned, and a dark forest where a loathsome creature threatens Harry but is scared away by a centaur, and the dark shadows of Hogwarts library, cellars, hidden passages, and dungeons, where an invisibility cloak can keep you out of sight but not out of trouble. During Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, I was pretty sure I was watching a classic, one that will be around for a long time and make many generations of fans. It takes the time to be good. It doesn't hammer the audience with easy thrills, but cares to tell a story and to create its characters carefully. Like The Wizard of Oz, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Star Wars, and E.T., it isn't just a movie, but a world with its own magical rules. And some excellent Quidditch players. The very first Harry Potter film, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone for its release in the United States, where audiences were assumed to be unfamiliar with this alchemical term, is now re-released after 20 years into a rather different world. Sadly, the actors who played the original Dumbledore, Snape, Uncle Vernon, and Mr. Ollivander, Richard Harris, Alan Rickman, Richard Griffiths, and John Hurt, are no longer with us. The Harry Potter franchise itself is still a colossal commercial entity, an IP Shangri-La, although its creator J.K. Rowling is now at the center of an acrimonious gender politics debate, undreamed of in 2001, and the world of children's and YA fiction, which she almost single-handedly revived all over the world, is strongly policed on just these issues. It's amazing and poignant to remember the sheer excitement of that HPTPS premiere in November 2001. I myself called it an old-fashioned pre-September 11 news event. Harry Potter emerged into cinemas as we were still all stunned by 9/11, but yet to see the retaliatory war on terror. This film, emerging 4 years after the original novel, marked the birth of a new consolatory pop culture myth to rival Sherlock Holmes and James Bond. And the circumstances of its own arrival became mythic, from Rowling's own early poverty to the snapping up of film rights. Warner Bros. Had gambled on 3 cherubically young actors to carry the series through their own adolescence to its finale: Daniel Radcliffe as Harry, Emma Watson as Hermione, and Rupert Grint as Ron. Opinions on the acting may divide here, and it was admittedly Robert Pattinson, playing Cedric Diggory in Goblet of Fire, who had the real career staying power. But I can't think of these characters played by any other actors. The thought of the stories being remade or readapted with a different cast is heresy. I even grew to like Grint's very broad, goofy acting, in which he was encouraged by director Chris Columbus at the outset. Radcliffe's bespectacled moon face looks heartbreakingly unformed. In the film, we see Harry Potter coming to terms with his messianic purpose. He is released from his Dickensian incarceration in the Dursley household and sent for his first term at Hogwarts with its public school Oxbridge traditions. Harry learns how to play Quidditch, like Tom Brown learning rugby, and he and his 3 pals are sorted into their various houses. They encounter the formidable teaching staff, including Professor McGonagall, Maggie Smith, Professor Quirrell, Ian Hart, and Professor Snape, Alan Rickman, and then meet the challenge of a deadly assault on Harry. And it's still a very entertaining and spectacular movie, with a rush of nostalgia to go alongside the exhilaration of fun, even though some of the flying effects during the big Quidditch match aren't quite what we're used to in 2021. Wingardium Leviosa, says the earnest, wide-eyed Hermione, and the story is airborne again. Harry, as he slithers out the door, Dudley tries to leave, but the glass has returned, and he's trapped like a something in a something. It's right there, I can feel it. Harry's amusement at this turn of events is short-lived. However, as Vernon drags Harry home and demands an answer when Harry insists it happened like magic, Vernon shuts him in the cupboard and yells through the slats, "There's no such thing as magic." Sometime later, as Dudley is trying on his new school uniform, Harry is made to go pick up the mail, and he finds something incredible by his standards. A letter addressed directly to him at his exact residence, despite living his entire life in a household where everyone hates him and actively works to steal every bit of joy from him. Harry doesn't think to hide the letter until later and attempts to open it at the breakfast table. Dudley snatches the envelope from his hands and shows it to his parents, which makes them fall gravely silent for the rest of the week. More letters to Harry arrive, but Vernon intercepts and destroys each one with the deftness of a White House aide trying to keep valid criticism from reaching the president's ears. It gets to the point where Vernon, looking like a half-crazed loon on holiday from the asylum, by this point, loudly boasts the fact that there's no mail service on Sundays when that day of the week finally rolls around. But Harry notices a strange disturbance outside in seconds. A torrent of letters from the fireplace floods the whole house, terrifying the Dursleys and delighting Harry. But Vernon goes off the deep end and nearly hurtles into bad touch territory as she wrestles Harry to the ground, bellowing that he's taking the family far away, where they will never find them. Cut to sometime later, where Vernon has shacked them up in a shack perched on a god, forsaken rock out on the ocean in the middle of a raging storm. It's nearly midnight and everyone's asleep, but Harry, who's counting down the seconds until his 11th birthday, he makes a wish on a cake he drew on the dirt floor. Sooner does he blow out the candles than there's a bang on the door as if something enormous is knocking to come. In the door falls off its hinges, and the massive visitor enters Hagrid Vernon. Pulls a shotgun on their unwelcome guest, but Hagrid tells him to shut it and messes with the gun like it's a balloon animal in a cartoon. He introduces himself to Harry, gives him Ariel birthday cake, and drops a massive bombshell. Harry denies she's an Owesome gay, fabulous wicker transformer hobbit woman, but is reminded of the zoo incident, as well as some other implied past moments where inexplicable things of his acceptance to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Vernon furiously insists that Harry won't be going not after he spent the past 11 years trying to squash the magic and his spirit out of him. Harry confronts him about knowing the truth all along, but it's Petunia who bites back, spilling years of envy and vitriol in one hate-filled monologue when her sister, Harry's mother Lily, was revealed to be a witch and asked to attend Hogwarts. Petunia turned on the freak in a fit of jealousy and refused to have anything to do with her. That is, until Lily and her husband James got themselves blown up, and Petunia was stuck raising Harry. Of course, this is all news to the boy who was raised, believing that his parents were killed in a car crash. This Leal also angers Hagrid, but not as much as Vernon, insulting the good name of Hogwarts headmaster Albus Dumbledore, rather than inflict some rather deserved bodily harm. However, Hagrid settles for cursing Dudley, who's been helping himself to Harry's cake this whole time by giving him a pig's tail, because that's all he really needs to make the comparison complete. He spirits Harry off to London to get his school supplies, making a stop at everyone's favorite magical pub, the Leaky Cauldron. The patrons are gobsmacked at seeing Harry and welcome him like a prodigal son. Also, there is mousy little Professor Coral Ian Hart, turban aficionado, Hogwarts teacher of defense against the dark arts, and candidate for Michael Palin's stutter removal therapy. Harry asks Hagrid why everyone is treating him like he's famous, and Hagrid says he's not the right person to tell him, which is weird considering he does so 10 minutes later, but whatever, script compression it. Happens a couple of taps on a brick wall, later in a doorway, opens soup into the Wizard's equivalent of Fifth Avenue and City Walk Diagon Alley. Diagon Alley is a masterwork of design. This is the moment Harry and the audience fully leaves behind the Muggle world and enters an extraordinary new place, both figuratively and literally. It's as not normal as possible. Not a single building is designed to be orderly and straight. Instead, we have a near-claustrophobic series of lanes and stores leaning into one another, and every single person bustling about is dressed in full wizard and witch regalia with colorful robes and pointed hats. There's always something to see each new turn exotic owl shooting for attention moving, mannequins in the robe shop window, kids fawning over the latest racing broom on display, like it's the hottest new toy I haven't been to the Diagon Alley expansion at Universal yet, but it's clear they borrowed heavily from this when they initially built Hogsmeade with its giant display windows and delightfully crooked buildings. Hagrid leads Harry to the Wizard Bank. Gringotts run by a group of menacing-looking goblins. Harry's thrilled to learn he's got a small mountain of gold in his parents' Voltora's Scrooge McDuck would call it pocket change. Then they visit Mysterious Vault 713, so Hagrid can pick up something for Dumbledore. What it could be is built up big time, only to reveal all the fanfare worthy of the Ark of the Covenant. He's over a grubby little package after picking up what he needs for school. Harry's last stop is Ollivanders. The wand maker Ollivander is played by the late great John Hurth. He's only here for the one scene, but he infuses Ollivander with such worldly wisdom and an aura of mystery that he is unforgettable. It's very reminiscent of his titular role in The Storyteller, a short but astounding Jim Henson series that I can't recommend enough. Trying out wands to find the perfect one is no easy task, as the results cause quite a mess in the shop. Ollivander does get to wondering, though, and the music picks up. Again, so you know something special is coming. Picking out a wand from a box tucked in a neglected dark corner. Ollivander gives it to Harry, and without a single word except for the mystical us from the choir, it's clear the wand has chosen its wizard. Ollivander explains his theory. None of the wands he's ever created are identical to one another, but there was one exception. The phoenix, whose tail feather makes up the core of Harry's wand, gave another feather to be used in a different wand, and that very wand was the one that gave Harry his scar. Ollivander refuses to speak the name of the wizard it belonged to, but concludes that this outcome means Harry is destined to do extraordinary things. As he who must not be named once, the mood is lightened somewhat with the return of Hagrid bringing a present for Harry, an owl named Hedwig. But Harry can't put off his questions any longer. Back at the Leaky Cauldron, Hagrid relates through an effectively eerie flashback the story of the darkest wizard ever known to magicine Voldemort, whose evil presence was so feared that to this day people are still afraid to call him by his name. Voldemort gathered followers and spread fear and death as his power increased. Few managed to stand up to him and live one night. Voldemort attacked Harry's parents, who were among those who challenged the evil wizard's wrath, and killed them when he tried to murder Harry. However, something happened that caused his killing curse to rebound and destroy himself instead, which has never been done in the history of the wizarding world before or since. That is the reason why Harry is so revered. He is the boy who lived later that day. Hagrid escorts Harry to the train station to get to Hogwarts, and wait a minute. Harry's birthday is July 31st. The first day of school at Hogwarts is September. First, were they at Diagon Alley for a whole freaking month? Looks like we're not going to get an answer to that. As Hagrid gives Harry his ticket to the school's train on platform 9 3/4 and promptly vanishes before Harry can learn how to find it. The boy asks the conductor for help getting to set platform. But sir, Topham Hatt here thinks he's pulling his leg. Luckily, Harry overhears a nearby family dropping the word Muggle and follows them. The kids run into the column between platforms 9 and 10 and disappear, and nobody bats an eyelid. Because, like I said before, them British don't give a about seeing something strange in their neighborhoods. Harry tries it with some encouragement from the family's matriarch, Mrs. Weasley, and finds himself inside the hidden platform, where a scarlet steam engine awaits to take him to Hogwarts on the ride there. One of the Weasley boys, Ron Rupert Grint, asks if he can share Harry's compartment, and the two become fast friends as they compare different types of wizard candy from Bertie Bott's Every Flavor beans, and they do mean every flavor to chocolate frogs. An inquisitive girl named Hermione Granger. Emma Watson also pops in looking for a lost toad, but stays to watch Ron's first attempt at magic, turning his rat scabbers yellow. The spell fails, and Hermione can't help but show off a real one she's been practicing, which fixes Harry's broken glasses, and all right. No more beating around the bush. Let's talk about the child acting in this movie. For most of the kids in this picture, this was either their first film they've acted in of this scope or just in general, and they're okay. Not bad. Not astounding, simply fine. On a scale of Jake Lloyd to Patty Duke, I'd say they rank a solid Macaulay Culkin. It's only when you really analyze this acting Emma Watson in particular, you see them giving a good performance as opposed to fully inhabiting the roles. However, with each movie they do get better, and by the third one, it's easy to see how far they've come, which is one of the few good things I can credit to that installment, but more on that when we get to it. By the time the train arrives at its destination, it's already dark. Hagrid leads the first years to the lake, where they get their first real look at Hogwarts. It's rare when the film version succeeds in doing something more magnificent than what you had imagined, so take it in. And Professor McGonagall welcomes them outside the Great Hall and lays down the rules before the children are sorted into their houses for, in all, Gryffindor, the good guy house, Slytherin, the bad guy house, Ravenclaw, the smart guy house, and Hufflepuff, the me guy house. The houses are in fierce competition with each other for the House Cup given at the end of the year to whomever has the most points, which are gained for good schoolwork and lost for rule breaking. This is Draco Malfoy. Tom Felton, a little from a powerful wizarding family who lords his superiority over Ron, whose family line is infamously numerous, but destitute. Malfoy offers his friendship to Harry, but Harry hasn't spent his childhood living with bullies without learning how to recognize one from the get-go, and declines giving birth to a rivalry that puts Pee-wee and Francis to Shame McGonagall brings the children into the Great Hall, a massive golden room, filled with floating candles and a ceiling that mirrors the sky. Before the sorting, Dumbledore announces that this year the third-floor corridor is out of bounds to all those who do not wish to die a most painful death, a usual start. Of term notice for an art school. Believe me, I know, but for a magic school, I'd expect better. The sorting ceremony is a simple one. McGonagall puts the enchanted sorting hat on someone's head. It reads their mind and determines which house that person is best suited for. Though they left the scene where they're also judged by the scarf of sexual preference on the cutting room floor. Hermione and Ron are sorted into Gryffindor. Malfoy is punted off to Slytherin the moment the Brim schemes his greased back dome. But the hat takes its time with Harry. It tells him he could be great in Slytherin, but after Harry begs it to put him anywhere, but that the hat sorts him to Gryffindor to everyone's delight. The sorting concludes, and the feast begins. Showing off more of Hogwarts magic with plates that fill themselves with food, and the resident castle ghosts making a spectacle to welcome the newcomers. John Cleese gets a fun cameo as Gryffindor's ghost, nearly headless Nick. Named so for the botched execution that keeps him from being considered for the Headless Horseman gig every Halloween. Extra information, a note from the editor, this review is directed at those who have read the first book, at least in the Harry Potter series. When planning our coverage for this film, we realized that this was the first big movie we've covered here on IGN Film Force, where a large percentage of our regular visitors have read the novel on which the film is based. Our Harry Potter section has consistently been one of our most popular sections since Film Force's launch. At the same time, we know that obviously not all IGN readers have read the book, so we decided to run 2 reviews of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We ran the first review last night from one of our regular reviewers, KJB, who hasn't read the books. The second review is this one, written by our main Harry Potter writer, Brian Linder, as is outlined in the note above. This is the second Harry Potter review we've run here on IGN Film Force. I'm glad we're doing this because as a fan of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books, I don't think I could objectively answer a question like, does the movie work on its own, having read the first book over a year ago and subsequently tearing through the others in just a few months' time? I don't feel that I can fairly judge that aspect of the film. I simply have too much Potter baggage to make a fair assessment. I'll simply say that it's a solid book-to-film adaptation that doesn't mean that every detail from the novels was perfectly translated to the screen. I've said all along in my various Harry Potter articles that if director Chris Columbus could stay true to the spirit of the books and not butcher major story elements or characters, then I would be happy, and I believe he has been faithful to Rowling's work. Of course, there are things I wish had been left in, such as Hermione's final task, but there are things that I was glad were cut out. The Norbert storyline would have been too much. Columbus and screenwriter Steve Cleese have done an admirable job doing what some believed an impossible task, faithfully bringing Harry Potter to the big screen. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is a good film. It's a lot of fun. It's even great at times. There were moments when I laughed out loud and times when I was frightened for Harry, even though I knew the ultimate outcome. There were quiet moments when I was touched. I'm a sucker for any time they show Harry's parents, and there were times when I wanted to stand up and cheer. But the film is not without its flaws. There were times when I cringed at an awkward bit of dialogue or at a bad edit, and there were parts where I felt frustrated by the lack of character, development, and even moments early in the film when I thought I might be showing signs of what I call Episode 1 panic disorder. Oh, that was bad. This isn't happening. This has to be good. It has to be. Fortunately, that quickly subsided, and I settled in for a fun and enchanting ride of a film. I know all you Potter readers will want specific observations, and I will do my best to recall everything. This part of my review will contain spoilers, so turn away if you don't want to know all the details. About the movie, Maybe I was just getting used to everything, but the entire first act felt very forced and awkward at times. I loved the prelude where Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Hagrid deliver baby Harry, and there were moments at the Dursleys that I thought were great, but it just didn't mesh well. The snake scene and the scene where the house is attacked by Owlpost are great, but the film just doesn't flow well at first. By the time we got to the hut on the rock, I was starting to get worried. Hagrid's introduction is great until the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for him to tell Harry about the wizarding world. There just isn't enough wonderment in his reaction. Consequently, the whole thing sort of falls flat. Radcliffe does just fine as Harry most of the time, but this is a key moment that doesn't play as well as it should. In fact, I think Harry's whole Hagrid, what's that routine throughout the film, is kind of one note. Look at me. I'm curious and slightly amazed on the whole Harry just doesn't seem as odd as he should at this magical world he's been swept into. Honestly, the movie didn't start to come together for me until we arrive at Diagon Alley. There, John Williams' score and the Dickensesque visuals began to soothe my anxiety. But it was at Mr. Ollivander's wand shop where the film stops to take its first real breath that I began to feel myself being sucked into Harry's world. John Hurt's performance is just awesome. While my astute colleague KJB found some of these expository moments slow and tedious, they were moments of great relief for me, where the on-screen storytelling really got cooking as Harry ventures deeper into the magical realm. Platform 9 3/4, the journey on Hogwarts Express, the arrival at school, the audience is drawn in with increasing aptitude by the time we reached Hogwarts. Columbus had coaxed me into sitting back and happily absorbing the lush, visually rich world that he has created. The school looks great. It might seem like a minor detail, but the living paintings were something I had really been looking forward to seeing on screen, and they are cool as can be. The fat lady and the painted canvases that come to life as the students walk to their dorms for the first time were great, but the single best use of this effect happens in the background during a special moment at the conclusion of the film. The paintings rocked, but the other visual effects were hit and miss. Many of the creatures were way too cartoony. The troll and obviously CG the centaur, but the less than perfect visuals didn't affect my enjoyment of those moments at all. I had already surrendered my disbelief. Who's to say what magical creatures look like? Quidditch looked great, and I was surprised how much I actually enjoyed the match. Honestly, I haven't been a fan of those same scenes in the books, and admit to skimming over some of the gameplay stuff, I found the subtly handled moments with Harry in front of the Mirror of Erised to be some of the best in the film. The moment where he first sees his parents is very moving, and the entire scene where he's sitting on the floor as Dumbledore walks in is just beautiful. John Seal did a fantastic job with the cinematography on this movie. There are some stunning moments where the lighting and the camera work are truly magical. I thought Columbus and Cleese did an adequate job of setting up the main conflict of the story. The Snape is the bad guy scenes could have been a bit more subtle, although Alan Rickman was a delight to watch, and while the conflict was established, well, the sort of leaves us behind as the kids have one sudden revelation after another, and we don't really catch up with them until they're descending through the trapdoor. The final challenges are great, especially the chessboard. Rupert Grint shines, but I wish they'd found a way to leave Hermione's final task intact regardless. It all builds tension leading up to the final conflict. Which brings us to another major issue I have with the film. Ian Hart's Professor Quirrell is appropriately bumbling in the early scenes he's in, but the character isn't developed as it should be. We've Been Hit Real Bad Guy is a baffling moment that falls flat instead of the surprising plot twist it should be. Hart is strong in these climactic scenes, but even his expository rantings aren't enough to make up for the lack of character development. And here's another kicker. Harry just sort of walks in. Quirrell does a bit of yelling, and before he has made any real demonstration of the awesome and deadly power that he has through Lord Voldemort's indwelling. He beckons Harry to come here, and Harry walks towards him without showing any emotion whatsoever. We don't feel especially afraid, and apparently neither does Harry. It's as if he's matter-of-factly saying, "Okay, I'll come stand there now." What? Radcliffe doesn't show us any real fear or courage here. He is simply calm, too calm. But soon things heat up and there are some great moments. All the Voldemort scenes were great. And there's an added bit of dialogue where he tempts Harry together. "We can bring your parents back," that I thought was a nice new touch. I wonder if that's the part we heard about, that Rowling added herself. Richard Harris was a joy as Dumbledore, although his closing scenes by Harry's bed don't quite explain everything. We don't hear anything about Harry's father or Snape's motivation for being such a bad dude. Things from the book that would have gone a long way toward explaining why Snape was acting so oddly. The House Cup. Victory was an appropriately happy ending, and the final send-off was sentimental enough by the time William's score swelled to a crescendo. I was looking forward to another visit to Hogwarts, in Harry's next on-screen adventure coming to theaters next year. Some random cast-related items. I haven't said nearly enough about Emma Watson from Hermione Granger's perfect introduction to her final scene. Watson is better than I could have possibly imagined. She steals the show. I also loved Robbie Coltrane's Hagrid, but I must admit I've been spoiled by Jim Dale's narration of the US version audio. Books, Dale creates unique voices that add great depth to each of the characters, and his Hagrid is still my favorite Maggie. Smith's McGonagall is another example of this. She just seems a bit bland compared to her character in the books. Sean Biggerstaff, the kid who played Oliver Wood, was great. Totally. Stealing every scene he was in. James and Oliver Phelps, the Weasley twins, were also fantastic. The film really could have used more of them without J.K. Rowling's narrative descriptions and her window into the minds of the characters. The Potter mythos doesn't seem as expansive, and the characters aren't nearly as strong. While the book feels like the beginning of an epic saga and an introduction into a vast mythical world, the film feels more like what would happen if you had an enchanted blender and tossed in Matilda Young, Sherlock Holmes, The Goonies, and yes, even a little Star Wars. Those are all favorite films of mine. And normally that kind of conglomeration would be an outstanding cinematic accomplishment. But in this case, I couldn't help feeling something was missing that said I'd recommend Harry Potter and the Sorcerer Stone to anyone and everyone. It's a good movie that should be a nice treat for fans and enjoyable for those who haven't read the books yet. This film, directed by Chris Columbus, screenplay by Steve Kales, produced by David Heyman, starring Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, John Cleese, Robbie Coltrane, Warwick Davis, Richard Griffith, Richard Harris, Ian Hart Allen, Rickman, Fiona, Maggie Smith, Julie Walters, cinematography John, edited by Richard, Francis Bruce, music by John Williams, production companies Warner Brothers. Pictures Heyday Films, 1,492 pictures distributed by Warner Brothers. Pictures 2, release dates: November 4th, 2001 in Oden Leicester Square, November 10th, 2001 in United Kingdom, November 16th, 2001 in United States, running time 152 minutes, countries: United Kingdom, United States, language English, budget $125 million, box office $1.026 billion. So guys, this is the review of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone movie and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting, and if you like this video, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe West Films to our channel. Thanks for watching.